We've got breaking news from the NFL here on CBS Sports HQ. The Carolina Panthers are benching quarterback Bryce Young just 2 weeks into the season. That's the latest from our NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. Veteran Andy Dalton will get the start against the Raiders this Sunday on CBS. The move comes with Carolina coming off to an 0-2 start, having scored a combined 13 points. Young has thrown 3 interceptions and 0 touchdowns this season. Carolina traded 2 first-round picks along with DJ Moore to move up to #1 in last year's draft to select Young. Now, our Jonathan Jones putting on X, I personally believe that the investment the Panthers made in Young, plus the hiring of Dave Canales, plus the entire preseason, would give Young another week. This is a huge move to make so early in the season. Speaking of our lead NFL insider, let's bring him in. So, JJ, it's not necessarily that the move was made, but it's the timing of the move here for you. Give us your reaction to this.
It's no secret that Bryce Young has struggled this season through 2 games. Sure, the Carolina Panthers are 0-2. They've looked bad, and Bryce has looked bad. I go back to last season where he had multiple different offensive schemes. Frank Reich took back play calling, and then Thomas Brown was given it, but then it was taken away from him after 2.5 weeks, and Frank Reich took it back, and then there was an interim coach who was a special teams coach. He had no chance to succeed last year, and it was impossible to really tell what was his fault and what was everything else. These first 2 games of the season, it's been pretty easy to tell what's been Bryce Young's fault. They go into New Orleans, and I don't know that anyone really expected Carolina to beat New Orleans, but you didn't expect a 37-point loss. They host the Chargers, a team that is obviously playing for their head coach, and they just get smacked around at home. And we see the stats right there. And again, so many of those losses, I refuse to pin personally on Bryce Young. But these last 2 games, they've been bad, and there's no other way around it. And so Dave Canales, the new head coach, the first-year head coach, who was brought in part for his work offensively with shorter quarterbacks, right? He was with Russell Wilson for so many years in Seattle. You know, Geno Smith's a tall guy, but he helps Geno have that great season 2 years ago. He goes to Tampa, and he gets Baker Mayfield and revives Baker Mayfield's career in Tampa. And so now he comes to Carolina, and everything is situated on and around Bryce Young to make him succeed because of the incredible investment the Carolina Panthers put into him to go up to #1 overall in 2023 and make him the #1 overall pick. They don't play him really in the preseason at all. Everything was geared toward this season. And after 2 games of bad play, make no mistake about it, bad play, the Panthers pulling the plug on the young quarterback and everything that is involved with benching a #1 overall pick 2 weeks into his second year. It's not just, hey, we got to sit you down, we're going to give you a breather. We see that a lot with rookies, right? Hey, just take a moment, we'll see you back in there in a couple of weeks. It rarely happens in the second year this early, but we're seeing it right now in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah, and you wonder if maybe that is part of that conversation because he didn't get that opportunity last year. Maybe Canales is taking that approach this year. But JJ, for you, what's the benefit of making this move now?
Well, the benefit is if you're the Carolina Panthers, that you can win some football games soon. By making this move, you have identified that Bryce Young is among the primary issues keeping you from being competitive in football games. I don't know that they would win against the Saints. I don't know that they would have beaten the Chargers with average quarterback play, with the play that they hope Andy Dalton is going to give them next week when they go to Las Vegas and face the Raiders. I don't know that, but they can't win with the quarterback play they have gotten from Bryce Young the last 2 weeks. So that is what you believe. I go back to the summer, and we heard from first-time and first-year general manager Dan Morgan, and he was asked about potential playoff hopes for this team, and he wouldn't go there. You know, it was sort of the talk of, hey, we're going to get better each and every day, the sort of talk like that. And that signaled to me in what we all perceive to be a weaker division in football, the NFC South, that the Panthers understood they're not there yet for 2024. That the 23 team, it was a very talent-poor team. Let's also remember in week 1, they wound up losing Derek Brown, their best player for the rest of the season due to a meniscus injury. But they go out and they get Deontay Johnson, and he was supposed to add speed and separation. Adam Thielen, who, that was a bad ball right there in week 1. And then we just kept seeing more bad balls yesterday from Bryce Young. And not just bad throws, but throws where he didn't make the throw. And Jeremy, I feel so often last year I would come on CBS Sports HQ and I would talk about the lack of separation with the wide receivers or how poorly the offensive line was playing. And you just can't say that coming off Sunday's game against the Chargers. The offensive line held up fairly well. Receivers got more separation. And so obviously the Panthers have pinpointed that if not the chief issue among the primary issues holding this team back is the 2023 #1 overall pick, Bryce Young.
Well, and even in that video you saw, I mean, Young just doesn't, there's just not a confident look on his face. He doesn't look comfortable when he's playing football at this current time. So, JJ, what do you see as the long-term implications of this? I mean, is there a chance that the Panthers are done with Bryce Young at this point?
Well, there has to be a chance when you bench the guy that you traded up for to go up to #1 overall. When you bench him this early, there's absolutely a chance that his career with Carolina will eventually be done. I'm not saying that they're going to cut him now. Of course, they're not going to do that. I'm not saying they're going to trade him anywhere before the trade deadline. Not entirely sure what you would get for him right now anyway. It would certainly be a day 3 pick if you were to trade Bryce Young right now or any time before the trade deadline the first week of November. But when you do something like this, it signals in an NFL where teams are moving on and moving away from quarterbacks at a much faster clip than we've ever seen before. The Denver Broncos willing to eat $80+ million in dead cap to get rid of Russell Wilson. Mac Jones, who helped the Patriots to a playoff just a couple of years ago, is now a backup in Jacksonville. We can continue on and on with the list. Trey Lance is the #3 quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys after being traded up for a couple of years ago by the San Francisco 49ers. We see and understand all of those things. So, again, not a surprise that they are ultimately in this season moving on from Bryce Young. This early, I do think it is a surprise because I do think that it just logically there could have been another week. But clearly the Panthers moving on right now, the long-term implications of this, if Andy Dalton can play well these next couple weeks, and it can't just be for a week that you're benching your #1 overall pick and starting Andy Dalton. You're not saying, hey, just chill out for 7 days. We're going to get you back in the rotation. You're hoping Andy Dalton gives you a spark and you don't have to turn back to the bench. So that could be the last time, barring injury, that we see Bryce Young out there on the field this season. And by making this move, I would anticipate the Panthers hope that that is the case because they believe they have a veteran who can operate the offense much more efficiently and put them in more competitive games in the fourth quarter. They clearly think that they have some sort of chance, but if they don't make this move right now, 2 weeks into the season, 0-2, where 10% of teams who start 0-2 in the modern NFL make the playoffs, then their entire season is lost.
The pressure is on the Carolina Panthers. Our lead NFL insider, Jonathan Jones, joining us to discuss the breaking news. Bryce Young being benched by Carolina in favor of Andy Dalton, at least for this week, as they go to Las Vegas to face the Raiders. And, of course, we've got you covered with everything to do with the NFL here on CBS Sports HQ. News, highlights, scores, and breaking news. It's all here.